Good morning, everybody. Kalimera. Welcome to come in here at the Chicago Council on Global Affairs. Greek Prime Minister Alexis Tsipras. We're honored to host him on our platform, and we'd love to welcome the delegation that's also here from Athens and Washington. The U.S. Ambassador to Greece is here, as well as the Greek Ambassador to the U.S. And thanks to our partner on the program, the Hellenic American Leadership Council, and their Executive Director, Endis Zemenides. Thanks to the Prime Minister's Office, the Greek Embassy in Washington, and the Consul General here in Chicago. Thank you for all of your help with this program. As many of you know, the Council is a membership organization, and your membership makes programs like this possible. If you're not a member, now may be a perfect time to join. Please note that the Prime Minister's remarks will be on the record. However, when we get to Q&A, they will be off the record, so please silence your phones. As you know, for nearly a century, the Chicago Council on Global Affairs has provided an independent platform, but the views expressed by individuals that we host are their own and do not represent institutional positions or views of the Council. This morning, Endis Zemenides will be introducing the Prime Minister. He's the Executive Director of the Hellenic American Leadership Council, as I mentioned, and he was also in the Chicago Council's 2015 class of Emerging Leaders. I'll be back up for the Q&A, but now please join me in welcoming Endi to the stage. Thank you.
Thank you, Neve. On behalf of the Hellenic American Leadership Council and the Chicago Council on Global Affairs, it's an honor to welcome Prime Minister Alexis Tsipras for the first official visit ever to the city of Chicago by a sitting Greek Prime Minister. And we're also honored to be joined by several ministers and the U.S. Ambassador to Greece and the Greek Ambassador to the United States. At the Chicago Council, we concentrate on issues that have been affecting Greece. Just a couple of weeks ago, at a program at the end of the transatlantic era, there was a lot of talk about the crises, the economic crises, the refugee crises, the security crises facing Europe. And our President Ivo Daalder asked, will the center hold? And this is a question that had been asked over and over again over the last 7 years in Greece. This government came in facing unprecedented challenges, an economy that has suffered consequences seen only in wartime, a 25% reduction in GDP, a refugee crisis, a historic humanitarian crisis. But today, the Greek government, the Tsipras government, stands still a resolute member of NATO. Even in the era of strongmen, democracy is thriving in Greece. And as we wonder whether the center can hold, maybe the Greek government can show the light and be an example. They're going to Washington to meet with the Trump administration after. We know the demand about 2% NATO GDP spending. This government has met that. So Greece has always stood by the U.S. It's one of just a handful of nations. It has always been on the side of the United States in every major conflict. And maybe now it's time that the U.S. can establish a new relationship and help this Greek government. And Chicago, which is in the era of global cities, a city that can help a lot of countries, and they're going to be visiting 1871. They're going to see a lot of what Chicago has to offer. Can help lead the way to help Greece. Prime Minister Alexis Tsipras is a civil engineer by background, has an expertise, graduate studies in urban planning and regional planning, and thus he picked Chicago. He took the leadership of Syriza in 2009, became leader of the opposition in 2012, and Prime Minister of Greece in 2015. Please join me in welcoming the Prime Minister of Greece, Alexis Tsipras.
Thank you very much. I'm very glad to be here in front of you. It's a great honor, great pleasure. Mr. President of the Board of Directors, ladies and gentlemen, I would like to warmly thank you for the hospitality and for the opportunity to speak here today. Chicago is an existing place for us the Greeks. First of all, we have a vibrant Greek American community that we look with pride too. A community that brings out the best qualities of our two nations. And entrepreneurship, dynamism, confidence, standing strong when things get tough. And having both respect for history and at the same time the will to define it. Secondly, Chicago is an existing place for us because Chicago is a dynamic, extrovert city that manages to be at the forefront of innovation and new technologies, while at the same time trying to protect those most vulnerable to the pressures of globalization. And there is a lot to be learned here in order to enhance our efforts to promote sustainable and inclusive growth in Greece, in my country, after 7 consecutive years of deep crisis, severe crisis, and recession. In general, I would say that the best moments in our common history were those where we managed to inspire each other. Our founding fathers looked to ancient Greek democracy for inspiration. And we, the Greeks, looked to the American War of Independence when the time came to rise up against our oppressors. Dear friends, again and again, when I speak to Americans living in Greece today, I hear the same message. This is the best moment in Greek-American relations after the Second World War. A time when we fought side by side against fascism. I believe strongly that a big part of this was because of American support throughout our very difficult years of crisis. Support on the basis of mutual respect. Support that was highlighted by President Obama. I will never forget his support in the difficult times of the negotiations. I will never forget his call phone just before the crucial negotiation in Brussels in June 2015. And of course, I will never forget his visit to Greece last December. And of course, President Obama's visit and my invitation to meet President Trump tomorrow, I think that means that our strategic relation is very strong and very promised. Today, ladies and gentlemen, Greece, my country, our country, because I know that I'm speaking in an audience with a lot of Greek Americans. Greece is finally coming out of a severe, deep recession that lasted more than 7 years, caused approximately a quarter of GDP, of Greece GDP, resulted in 27% unemployment, and led us to an enormous brain drain of our most qualified young professionals. A recession that was combined by the biggest refugee flows ever seen in Europe since the Second World War. Flows that coming to our doorstep. The Greek people worked hard, they made sacrifices, and at the same time they improved for the better. And they refused to go back on our principles. Whether that means fighting back on our economic program negotiations or protecting people that need it the most. And today, we stand strong again. Today, Greece is back, leaving behind not only the crisis, but also the economic model that led us to it. The practices of the past that contributed to inefficiency and corruption, hostile not only to the foreign investors, but also to us, to the Greek citizens. Our recovery is not based on returning to the past, but on new, solid foundations. And let me introduce some figures to explain to you better the situation now in Greece. The economy has grown for 2 consecutive semesters, and the forecast of growth for 2017 is approximately 2% of GDP, and 2.6% was the last forecast of IMF for 2018. We managed to outperform the targets of primary surpluses in the last 2 years, and this trend will continue this year as well. We have already the first successful attempt to refinance our debt through the capital markets, and we build our reputation day by day. The industrial production index is up 6% in the first half of 2017 compared to 2016. Investments are up 11.2% for the first quarter of 2017. Exports are up in the first 8 months of 2017. And let me just add that Greece has nearly doubled the exports of the US than vice versa. Tourism has increased by 5 million in the last 3 years and expected to reach 35 million tourists in 2021. And in 2017, that summer, we had the record of more than 30 million tourists in Greece. Most importantly, the unemployment rate has decreased 5.4% between 14-17 and will be down 7.4% by next year. And of course, ladies and gentlemen, all this did not happen by accident. We applied a very demanding package of reforms, over 400 actions of difficult, but some of them very necessary structural reforms in our tax system, product markets, judicial system, health and social care, energy sector, as well as the business environment. And we made sure legislation was enforced because we believe that only the good application of a good legislation can remedy a situation. Our goal is to move ahead with a new sustainable growth model that gives priority to innovation, is export-oriented, investment-friendly, and makes full utilization of our highly skilled human capital and, first of all, is socially just. But in that point, let me highlight some of the reforms that could make this goal possible. The 2016 Investment Incentives Law, which aims to generate more than $13 billion in private investments by 2023 by providing incentives and predictability to the private sector, including through a stable corporate income tax rate for 12 years. Second, the fast-track procedure for the strategic investments. The high absorption of EU structural funds in the period 14-20, where Greece ranks first in the EU co-financed investment projects for the first time in our history. Fourth, the cooperation with international financial institutions in order to increase liquidity and ease investment financing. Fifth, the creation of a new state development bank. We are looking forward to start its function in spring 2018. Sixth, the acceleration of the investment agenda through the establishment of the Hellenic Corporation of Assets and Participation. Seven, further ease of investment licensing procedures in cooperation with the World Bank. 8, solid steps to strengthen the Greek banking system, which was recently recapitalized and is now highly performing in terms of capital adequacy. 9, the promotion of a strategy on fighting unemployment. And 10, the reform to combat bureaucracy with full digitalization of the public administration. And our goal is very soon digital communication to be the main means of communication with the public administration. Ladies and gentlemen, dear friends, this effort in the economy constitutes a solid basis for our broader goal of enhancing our role as an economic hub and as a pillar of stability and security in our broader region. And this is exactly where the future of the Greek-American strategic relationships lies. It is not only diplomatic, not only economic. It is a relationship of great geostrategic importance, given the location of Greece at the crossroads of 3 continents, as well as the growing instability in our region. First of all, Greece is the only country that has promoted a comprehensive, active diplomatic agenda for stability and cooperation in one of the most important but also unstable regions in the world. It is a long-time EU and NATO member, and one of the few that fulfills its obligations in terms of military expenditure and international anti-terrorism operations. Greece promotes a strong defense cooperation with the United States, including in the crucial base of Souda Bay in Crete, through valuable and reliable air and naval facilities. It has an active policy of resolving the Cyprus issue on the basis of a fair and viable solution outlined in United Nations Security Council resolutions. Greece has an active policy of dialogue and engagement with Turkey in order to keep it looking to the West. It resolutely protects its sovereign rights in the Aegean against illegal Turkish claims and provocations, while remaining self-restrained and encouraging dialogue. Greece has an active policy of resolving the name issue with our northern neighbors, FYROM, on the basis of a mutually agreed solution in order to open the path for the country's Euro-Atlantic perspective. It promotes strong bilateral and trilateral with Cyprus cooperation with our strategic partners in the region, with Israel, Egypt, but also with Lebanon, Palestine, and Jordan, and carries out important military exercises with US, Israel, United Arab Emirates in the Mediterranean. Greece was crucial in establishing the Southern EU Country Summit. It established strong multilateral initiatives with Balkan countries, including with Serbia and Bulgaria, trilateral cooperation and more last month with Bulgaria, Serbia, and Romania. And it is instrumental to revitalizing the European perspective of the region. It established regional initiatives such as the Rhodes Conference promoting security in the broader region, or initiative for the protection of religious minorities in the Middle East. At the same time, Greece, already a global power in tourism and shipping, is rapidly strengthening its role as an energy and transport hub through the delivery of Caspian gas using the Trans-Adriatic Pipeline, TAP, and IGB and the Vertical Corridor, through expanding the LNG terminal in Revithoussa, establishing and floating storage regasification unit, FSRU, in our northern port of Alexandroupolis, and procuring additional gas imports from the United States. And I want to add the fact that Greece is the second country in the world that opens the way to shale gas imports in Europe, through developing also as well the EastMed pipeline for importing Israeli and Cypriot natural gas, and the Eurasia Interconnector project linking Greece, Cyprus, Israel in an electronic grid. Through new offshore hydrocarbon tenders in Crete and the Ionian, in which I know that American companies are active, through talks with Turkey on a new gas pipeline, through following the successful privatization of the ports of Piraeus and Thessaloniki with a view to developing them into regional logistic hubs connected to road and railroad networks, through expanding high-speed railway connections all through the Balkans, as well the Danube and Black Sea regions. Dear friends, ladies and gentlemen, I believe strongly that this is the moment for further enhancing the Greek-American strategic partnership looking to the future. And this cooperation must focus on three fields. First, it must focus on American investments in Greece, particularly in the fields of tourism and real estate, in the field of energy, infrastructure, new technology and innovation, agribusiness, and also in the financial sector. This includes important joint ventures in third countries, like the one General Electric recently concluded in Libya together with a Greek company. And there is a profound symbolism in the fact that next September, when after 8 consecutive years the adjustment programs will be over, the United States will be the guest country at the Trade Expo at Thessaloniki International Fair. This should be and will be the landmark of the Greek-US economic and strategic partnership. If this is the first, the one field of cooperation, the second field, it could be the recognition from the American side that Greece can only remain the regional pillar of stability and security if its most fundamental security concerns in the Aegean and the Mediterranean, the Eastern Mediterranean, are met. Either on the level of diplomacy or military procurement, or both. As you may suppose, I prefer the first rather than the other two. Dear friends, I want to underline, I want you to know that we Greeks we are a friendly country. We are a country and people that were fighting for our principles and values, and we are a force of peace and stability and friendship. I want to inform you that I was the first Prime Minister that visited Turkey 3 times in less than a year at an extremely difficult time for our bilateral relations. And this because I believe strongly in retaining Turkey's European perspective. Nevertheless, I refuse to believe that our peoples can have a healthy future when tens of Turkish aircraft violate Greek national airspace on a daily basis and risks accidents because of increased dogfights in Aegean. And I refuse to believe that the people of a United Republic of Cyprus can have a future in this day and age if their security is guaranteed by a third country with the permanent right of military intervention. So, with these thoughts, I don't want to speak more because I think that maybe it's more interesting to exchange thoughts and views. With these thoughts in mind, I once again want to thank you for this opportunity, and I want to repeat that all these Greek Americans that lives in Greece that said to me that now maybe is the better period in the Greek-American relations and there is a unique momentum, they're right. It is a unique momentum. But after 2 days in Chicago, I'm more confident that the Greek-American community could do more to help Greece. Because we need their help. As crucial was the support of US during the difficult times of the crisis, the same crucial is now the support in order to overcome the crisis forever, once and forever. And I believe that we are in a unique momentum and that we have to take advantage of it. My official visit in US gives this message, the message that Greece is back and the message that Greece could be strong again and plays a crucial role in order to protect our common values in a very sensitive region in the world. Thank you very much.